close it out. We're in a time period where we are basically functioning with the Holy Quran. So I'd like to share something with you out of the Holy Quran. Every nation has a messenger sent to them with a revelation. And the revelation is sent to that nation to help them become a better people from that point in time. Whatever is revealed to them is fits the requirements that are necessary for them to become a better people. And it also reveals more of the unseen. 1960, when Islam was beginning to really take a hold, this is when the sit-in movement started, the civil rights movement. Okay, this is the beginning of another messenger, his idea. Now, I'm going to say something. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he was a messenger to the black nation. I'm going to say Martin Luther King, the Honorable Martin Luther King Jr. was a messenger to the white nation, because we often heard that we were a nation within a nation. But the Honorable Martin Luther King Jr., the message that he delivered to the white community was a powerful message. It was one of nonviolence, equal opportunity, equal rights, treat people based on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. Get over your racism. This is something that is going to cause you to perish if you don't get over your racism. This is going to create a race war. So the message that he was delivering, he had a lot of people following him as well, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had a lot of people following him with the do for self attitude. So now, when Alex Haley was writing for Reader's Digest, I don't know what year it was, but one Reader's Digest, he featured the work of the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he said the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the most powerful black man in America, probably in the Northern Hemisphere. And next thing you know, you see another writing saying the hate that hate produced and that kind of thing. So the civil rights movement is beginning to get feel the competition coming. Now both of these are happening in the same nation, the same United States of America, but because it's a nation within a nation, the black people, the black nation had its messenger, and the white nation had its messenger. Now both messengers were black. The Honorable Martin Luther King Jr., he delivered a revelation to white people that they had to honor. He said to them, if you don't stop this racism, we're all going to perish. We're all going to perish. And he espoused nonviolence, and he gave his own life to prove the point that violence will not solve anything. Even though today, the white people still believe that violence will solve everything. But anyway, they did accept enough of the revelation to bring into being the integrated society that we have today. I mean, no longer do black people have to eat at black restaurants. We can eat anywhere we want to eat now, anywhere we can afford to eat. Okay? We have a president, we have a black president who is the product of an offspring of a white mother and a black African father from Nigeria. And remember now, before integration, there were laws where a black man could not marry a white woman, and a white woman, a white man could not marry a black woman. But with the revelation of Dr. Martin Luther King and all the people that espoused his idea and worked toward his idea, those laws have been eliminated. So now today, we have a lot of children who are offspring of mixed marriages. And this is the dream of Martin Luther King, and this is this is the result of the revelation that he brought to the white community. You have to stop this racism or else you're going to perish. And there were those who were wise enough to see the revelation that he was bringing, and so they worked toward that. Now, the Nation of Islam offered a lot of competition to that idea, and it caused a lot of very successful black people to say a lot of things. I know if they were still alive, they'd probably take them back. But one I never forget was Thurgood Marshall, the first black Supreme Court justice. He was speaking to a crowd of students, a group of students at Princeton University in 1959, and he was asked about his thoughts about the Nation of Islam. And he called the Nation of Islam a bunch of thugs that came out of prisons and jails and that was supported by Arab groups. Okay. So him being a graduate of Lincoln University, and then he went to law school at Howard University, I guess that had some impact on a lot of people. It had a pretty good impact. It didn't impact me because I had never heard of the Nation of Islam. I was in New York. It's a funny thing. I tell people all the time. I went to New York, D.C., Detroit, constantly. I went to Detroit a lot. Stayed in Detroit. Was in Detroit during the riot, 1967. Was up in Atlantic City, New Jersey every summer. Was in New York a lot. Was in D.C. all the time because my uncle worked at Howard University. Never heard the word Islam. Never heard the word Muslim. I never heard any of it until I was 20 years old. No, I was older than that. I was 20, let's see, I was 23, 24 years old before I heard the word Islam, Muslim, or the Nation of Islam. And I heard it in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I heard it at home. And so I'm thankful to the brothers that I interviewed in the first part of the documentary for just holding up the sign as long as they held up the sign, as long as they did, because had they not made a sign of the presence of the Nation of Islam, I might not have ever heard it because I was everywhere where it existed, but I wasn't around it. My longitude and latitude was not there. You know, my longitude and latitude was going by it all the time. So that is that's something that I am thankful for. But anyway, considering all of that, these two revelations were running parallel, and they were running sort of opposite each other, against each other, so to speak, but they never did touch. But they were creating such a magnetic wave of energy in the black community as well as in the United States of America that we have the day that we have today. This is a very beautiful day from Allah, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. And we're free today, as he also said. You know, and that's all you ever wanted was your freedom. That's all we should have ever wanted was our freedom. You're free to go for self today. You know, he can't hold you a slave anymore. You're holding yourself a slave, as he said. And they will realize that history does repeat itself because, and I'm going to tell you why. Because in the early 18th century, 19th century, beginning in the early 1800s, black people were escaping slavery that existed in the South and migrating to the North. And their population was increasing so rapidly that white people wanted to initiate a movement to enable the Africans, the former black slaves or Africans, to leave the United States because they were in fear of what this freedom of these former slaves could cause in America. And believe me, during that early part of the 19th century, you know, going from say maybe 1819 to 1830, 35, there were a lot of riots in the United States of America. And there was a lot of death and destruction. And so there were a lot of white people who believed that the best thing to do was to separate the black man from America. But there was a great resistance to that from black people. And then there was a period of time in the 19th century where they called the Great Awakening, where the white man got a lot of religion. And the reason he got religion is because most of the black people that he had freed, they were Muslims. And so they quickly wanted to convert them to Christianity. But as a result of converting them to Christianity, they still tried to establish a colonization movement which would move them out of the country back into a country that they founded called Liberia. And that was successful for a minute. And to this day, the country of Liberia still exists. But the black people put up a great resistance to separation back then. So separation is nothing new. It's just that in our time, in this community, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, there were those who came into the knowledge of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad who grabbed hold to this idea again and tried it again. And though we didn't arrive at the results that we wanted to arrive at, we still were made a better people and a more successful